Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the Cold Fusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome to the Modernize podcast, CFML News Edition. It's episode 134, February 8th, 2022. I'm Gavin Pickin, software developer for Ortus Solutions, and I'm joined by another software developer from Ortus Solutions, Daniel Garcia. Welcome.
Hello.
Good to have you back again. You getting the hang of these things now?
Starting to. Every time I feel a little less like a noob.
Yeah, no, it's all good. You're doing a good job, and it's good to get some fresh faces on here. So,
fresh is, but new.
Hey, I showered and shaved today, so that's a big plus for everybody.
I shaved too, just in case I was going to get the tap today. So
cool. Well, first let's thank our sponsors, Ortus Solutions. Without them, we wouldn't be able to be here. They're the makers of ColdBox, CommandBox, ForgeBox, TestBox, and almost every other box out there. So we appreciate that. You want to tell us how to say thanks back to Ortus?
Absolutely. There are several ways to say thank you back to Ortus Solutions. You can just like and subscribe to our videos on YouTube, like we're watching now. You can star and fork our repos on GitHub. You can subscribe to our podcast on your podcast apps, leave us reviews. We're available wherever fine podcasts are sold and available. You can sign up for a free or paid account on CFCasts. We're releasing new content regularly, almost every week. You can also buy Ortus's book, 102 ColdBox HMVC Quick Tips and Tricks on Gumroad. I'll put a link on there. That is a great book to just kind of get up and running with lots of cool little tips and tricks. I highly recommend it.
Yep. I think I need to do 2 a week just so I can get through them all. So I might make it a late New Year's resolution to try and get through them.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. And then we also want to thank our Patreon supporters because they are spending their hard-earned money to support Ortus Solutions on patreon.com. And right now we have 35 Patreons providing 96% of the funding for this podcast. So that means that the rest of those dollars are available for Ortus to spend on other community efforts, like all those tools we mentioned, ColdBox, CommandBox, ForgeBox, and everything else. So we really appreciate them, and we'll give you a little bit more information about them at the end of the episode. We'll even list off their names. We'll mispronounce them badly, so stick around for the fun.
But I think it's you this week mispronouncing badly, so thank you for that.
Yep, I will try and do my best. So
I always feel guilty that I butchered your name.
That's okay. I mean, I'm used to everyone butchering my name my entire life, so this time I get some back. Cool. Okay, so news and events. What do we got up first?
Okay, the big one, ColdBox version 6.6.0 is released. So we recently are incredibly excited to release the ColdBox 6.6.0. It's a standalone and whatever standalone companion libraries like Cachebox, Logbox, and Wirebox. The release taken many months and lots of research to complete. One of the big things is we have finally made Wirebox a hierarchical dependency injection framework, which is a huge first step toward allowing multi-dependency management in ColdBox modules. Basically meaning that you'll be able to have modules of different versions running with the same ColdBox app, and each module will be able to get the right dependency it needs with whatever version it needs. Really, really cool, awesome stuff. I didn't quite understand how cool that was until I saw it, and it is very cool, trust me. Or you can read the blog post I'm about to post.
Yep, it does look very cool. There's a lot of cool stuff going into the way that's set up. I know we've talked about this for a long time, and there's been a lot of things we wanted to do, and we couldn't because of the version dependency issue. But this really does take a big chunk out of getting that to work the way we want to. So very cool. So version 6.6.0 released. Check out the blog post, and you obviously get it on ForgeBox or the ColdBox website.
And I see John asked if there's going to be a 6.6.6 release. I have not heard. If I was a betting man, I would say no, but just on superstition. But if there's a feature you want, as always, ask. Yep.
Okay, so next up, we have the State of the CF Union 2022 survey. We've been talking about it for a little while now, and we got some new news about it, though. So if you haven't filled it out, we want to go have you fill it out. But there are now the preliminary results. And so I'm going to pull the screen up here for those who are watching, because you guys are the cool ones. And so when you pull that up here, you'll see that we actually have some of the results are already piling in. And so if you scroll through here, there are a lot of questions, I admit, but there's a lot of cool stuff in here as well. So basically the results are all here. You can check out all the stuff. And for those who actually want to look at filling out the survey, oops, sorry, I stopped sharing my screen right as all the results started showing up here. The graphs were loading, sorry. That's a cool one here. MVC framework to use. ColdBox is now the most used MVC framework out there. And it even's better than don't use a framework, which usually homegrown or don't use a framework are right up there, but we're finally got ahead of them. So
Awesome.
obviously we're still got more to get, more surveys to get filled out. But the cool thing is now if you fill out that survey, I didn't know they had Raffle Prizes, but we do. And Ortus has provided several Raffle Prizes. So we have a digital copy of the Learn Modern CFML in 100 Minutes book, a digital copy of the 102 Tips and Tricks book, 1 month access to CFCasts Premium, a ForgeBox Pro subscription, a ForgeBox Business subscription, and it doesn't say all access, but an access pass to ITB 2022. So there's a pretty cool amount of stuff there. I'm pretty excited to be able to offer that because we really do want people to fill this in. I mean, it's great just for just for anyone to know what's happening in the CF world, and everyone wants to know more about the tools. But as a company that makes tools for CF developers, it really helps us to figure out which tools are, maybe not used very well, and maybe need to explain why they're important or what benefits they have better, or maybe there's some other things that people are using that maybe we shouldn't be building anymore. So it really helps us focus on what we should do next and everything, and we're really excited to have that sort of out there. And so you got raffle prizes now, so tell everybody, fill it out, go into the drawer to win some cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I also like looking at the results. There's some things I've never heard of. I like to think that I'm fairly aware of what's out there, but it's kind of cool to see, hey, what's this tool? Hey, that's pretty cool. Never thought about that. So definitely a way just to see what's out there and a snapshot of what's going on.
Yep, for sure.
Okay, so moving on here really quick. Eric, I saw your comment about skipping floor 13 in buildings. That never makes sense to me, because if you skip floor 13, wouldn't the next floor really be the 13th floor? So it makes no sense. And I know that you like pointing things like that out. So we'll talk about that later. Anyway, so we have an Ortus webinar, What's New in CommandBox 5X with Brad Wood. So on February 24th of 2022 at 11 a.m. Central Time. In this webinar, Brad is the lead developer of CommandBox. Will cover all the new features available in CommandBox 5. You want to tune in and make sure you're getting the most of your command line interface, or CLI. CommandBox is awesome. Tune in and see why.
Make the most of your CLI. I've never heard that one before. So
Isn't that how you use CLI?
No, not the way I would say it, but anyways. Well, tonight we have another webinar, so you don't have to wait for Brad's. Tonight, John Ferrara is actually going to do one on ColdBox, the leading CFML framework. So we stole a little bit of his thunder. I see him in the chat talking about it. But yeah, so the Michigan group, CFUG tonight, it's going to be John leading that one here. And but yeah, it's basically shared what position the technology to achieve the lead and how it can position you as a developer and business using technology for the future. So he's going to show you some of the cool features and benefits of using ColdBox. So if you're not a ColdBox user, this might be a good way to get an idea of some of those features and everything. I know we always pipe on about how awesome it is and all the modules you can use. Hopefully this is a good little session for you to figure out if it's worth doing.
And to be clear, we don't just say this because we work for Ortus. We say it because we actually believe it.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. The legacy sites that I have and have maintained, like I've added Wirebox to all of them. I've added like Logbox to all of them. Caching. I add all the stuff even without ColdBox, and some of the sites that actually have active maintenance on them, I'm adding ColdBox as well and dual legacy stuff. So. And I do that not because it's cool, like you say, it's because it helps me. It makes my life easier and better as a developer. So anyway, so check out John's session tonight. We've got the link being posted in the chat right now. So
Good luck, John. Cool. Have fun.
Okay, and then next up, I just wanted to put a quick shout out to Grant Copley, who did the CBWire presentation a couple weeks back for the Ortus webinar, but he's been pumping out tons of great stuff. So I've been seeing a lot of tweets out there from him talking about new features like the template directives now, and so we got a link. I'll share on my screen real quick. But so if you guys are using Vue and maybe you don't want all of Vue in your app, like these directives and everything, they got the wire on click, key, click prefetch. I mean, it's very Vue-like, built straight into CBWire. He's doing some really cool stuff with it. And so he's working hard on all this new stuff. So definitely check out the webinar if you haven't seen it. But follow Grant Copley and find out more about CBWire. He's posting on Twitter quite often. So
yeah, it's awesome stuff. If you haven't seen the webinar, like I mentioned, go check it out.
Yep, it's up on CFCasts.com. And
Jinx.
Sorry. Your turn.
Okay, so next we got CommandBox-Migrations version 4 is in beta. Please test it out if you can and give Eric Peterson your feedback. Eric is on the chat here. He would love to hear all your feedback on all what's cool, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the awesome. If you don't know, migrations are a way of providing version control for your application schema. You can create files with SQL to add, alter, etc. your database. Makes it awesome to add changes, remove changes. I hadn't really used migrations until like 6 months ago, and it is awesome. So another cool tool that's out there in the Ortus galaxy.
Yep, it really makes your life much easier when working with a team and not sure which people are adding what tables, and is your database up to date, and because not everybody has shared databases, and not everybody wants to have a shared database, so it's pretty cool. And John Fryer's laughing at you saying jinx because you don't believe in 13th floor, but you like to jinx people. But anyway.
Well, the more I hang out with you, Brian or Gavin, the more I'm like, hey, anyway.
Yeah, it's John's asking if they skipped the 13th floor in China because apparently it's good luck there. The chat is pretty lively today. Good to see some people in there chit-chatting. We'll try and give you the highlights and skip the lowlights. But
something.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So Hawaii CFUG has its first webinar scheduled. So Friday, February the 25th, John Barrett, who's started this Hawaii CFUG, is going to be speaking about using CFCs in your Cold Fusion applications. So he's going to be going over that, and it's up on their new site, cfhawaii.net, and he has a meetup group as well, so we'll be sharing those links with you. But yeah, he's also looking for someone to help find people for presenting. I know that a lot of people are busy and kind of burnt out with virtual presentations these days. But if you are looking to present, the Hawaii CFUG is a good one. And also, Charlie Earhart has the online CF meetup, which he's always trying to get more people to present on there. He doesn't want to make it the Charlie Earhart show where he speaks about everything every week. He could, because he knows a lot of stuff. He works with a lot of people, consulting for a lot of different clients. And so, he learns a lot of things from all those interactions. But, so if you are looking to present, and if you want to present it in person at some point, online ones are a great way to get started. So that's, yep, the Hawaii CFUG is up there. And like I said, if you want to speak to, let them know. I'm sure they're interested, as is online CF Meetup and a few other places.
And if I could figure out a way to physically go there, I would definitely offer to speak.
Well, actually, I'm trying to plan a trip to Hawaii sometime soon. I got all these flight credits stocked up from when I couldn't use them everywhere. I'm like,
oh yeah,
Hawaii's like the only place I can't drive to, really, so I should just fly there if I'm going to use some credits, right? But anyways, what's up next?
You talked about the Charlie show. I would actually watch the Charlie show if he had, every week was doing something awesome. That guy is fantastic. So anyway, ICYMI.
In case you missed it.
In case you missed it.
You missed it.
ICYMI means like it can mean, I don't know. CommandBox workflow magic. Modules to speed up CF development with Brad Wood. So Brad talks about the CommandBox workflow magic, modules to speed up, in this episode of CF Live Podcast with Michaela Light. I'm going to post the link. Basically, lots of awesome modules you can use with CommandBox to speed up your development. I use a lot of them regularly, and they are awesome.
Cool. Okay. Next up, we got lots of news today, guys, so we better get on with this. So, Adobe has a webinar coming up here on February 24th, the Thursday, Cloud Report building using ColdFusion and PDF, and Mark Takata is going to be talking about leveraging the power of Adobe ColdFusion and Adobe PDF to build reports using cloud-based no-code data sources. That sounds like a bingo game gone wild there. So tech bingo. But he talks about GraphQL, CFML, and PDF services, and he's been pretty big on this GraphQL stuff for a while. So I even heard rumors that the next version is going to have some GraphQL support in it. So I bet that's because Mark's involved, because he loves GraphQL. So
That's awesome.
Yep. So we'll share the link for signing up for that. But
I will do that right now. Sorry, I get lulled into your soothing tones. I also noticed in the chat, Eric kind of mentioned about the migrations, has multiple managers and seeders, and he only wants good feedback, please. So please accommodate Eric.
That's why I don't give feedback.
So for the Adobe workshops, you want to join the Adobe ColdFusion workshop to learn how you and your agency can leverage CF to create amazing web content. The one-day training cover all facets of Adobe ColdFusion that developers need to build applications that can run across multiple cloud providers or on-premise. I will get better about just not reading what's in front of me like Ron Burgundy. So anyway, Wednesday, it's free. Thanks, Gavin. So Wednesday, February 16th at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, Brian Sappey is going to be doing a workshop. Also on Wednesday, March 9th at 2022, because I'm reading again, I'm sorry, at 9 a.m. CET, Central European Time, Damian Bruendox is also going to be doing one. I'm going to post both links and the link to all of them.
Yep, so Adobe's got quite a few scheduled out. So before it was just Damien doing them, but now they've got Brian Sappey doing some US Timezone ones. So it looks like they've got a good amount of content, and I'm going to share my screen for those looking, because on the Adobe site, they actually have a list of all this stuff. We're not going to tell you all of this stuff every week, because obviously it's in the future. So we'll just sort of give you the next couple. So as you can see, there's a couple workshops, the webinar, but they've got ones planned for April 21st, another webinar April 21st, May, and then in June. So it looks like basically every month they're going to be doing a workshop, and then if you learn more, you can see which presenter, which time zone, etc. But a lot of times you'll see that it actually says CET, PST, CEST, PDT, so you can figure out if it's Central European time or, whatnot. So definitely a cool little resource, and that is at meetus.adobeevents.com/ColdFusion. So we'll try and keep you up to date on those as they come out as well. Okay, so that wraps up our news, but we got more because CFCast content. So as we mentioned, Grant Copley's CBWire and Alpine JS webinar is up on CFCasts, so go check that out. We got a few new series that we're working on, trying to get the content ready. I know we're still editing Into the Box Latam videos as well, so we've got lots of great content coming very soon for CFCasts. And I've just got a little bit more time added to my schedule, so I'm going to jam it full with some more, and I'm going to try and do some more CFCast content too, because I love making videos like that, and there's lots of cool stuff I want to share. So hopefully you'll be seeing some CFCast content coming from me sometime soon, if I don't overbook myself.
That's awesome. And I want to hear your content, Gavin. I've watched some of your videos already, and it's funny, sometimes I'll speed it up just a little bit, just to kind of, and so when I talk to you and you talk normal, it's like, why does he talk so slow? Well, no, that's a normal speech. It just,
yeah,
talking at 1.5 speed.
It's funny when you slow people down to normal speed after podcasts or videos. And then Grant Copley said he's working on up and running with CBWire video too for CFCast, so that's cool.
Nice.
Very, very cool.
Oh man, Grant, you're on fire.
Yeah, I know.
Not literally, but you're awesome. So keep it up. Definitely inspiring a lot of us.
Okay, conferences and training. The Christmas time zone is gone. We're getting into a few things. So what do we got coming up next?
Okay, so next is DevNexus 2022. If you don't know what DevNexus is, it's the largest Java conference in the US, according to their Twitter. It's April 12th and 14th in Atlanta, Georgia. Our very own Brad and Luis will be speaking. Luis will be talking about Alpine JS, declare and react with simplicity. And Brad will be talking about what's a pull request and contributing to open source. I do believe that is an in-person conference. Is that right, Gavin?
Yep, they're going to be in person.
Live, in person. If you want to check it out and stop and say hello.
Yep, I know things are starting to open up. I think even Jersey was going to drop the mask mandate for schools and stuff, so people are starting to, see those numbers go down and start to open up. So hopefully we'll get
Let's hope.
real in person a little more often. We also have another in-person conference. The US version of Vue.js Conf is going to be at Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and that's going to be June 8th through the 10th. And their slogan is Beach Code Vue. So apparently that's the only reason I want to go is the beach, but that's not true. The workshop day is June 8th, and the main conference is the 9th and 10th. And they actually have a call for speakers. So call for papers now open. The deadline is February 28th. So if you want to speak there, you've still got a couple more weeks to fill out the call for papers. So that is us.vuejs.org. Go check it out. And I'm hoping to actually make it to this one. Ortus is, since no one's been to a conference in quite a while other than Into the Box, we're trying to reach out and do some other conferences outside of the CFML world. So I'm hoping that me and a few of the Ortus team can make it to that one, and hopefully some of the other people from the CFML community that are using Vue. So if you guys are thinking about another conference, maybe add that to your list, and we can spend some time hacking on some CFML Vue.js related tools while we're down there, and network a little bit. Be good to see everybody. So that's my plan. So
That's awesome.
Yep, so hopefully we'll see you then. We also have Into the Box 2022. The tentative dates are September 27th through the 30th, so looks like the last little bit of September. And as usual, we're going to try and do some workshops the day prior to the conference. We'll give you more details as we go, but sort of pencil that weekend just that way you can get some time off, hopefully, or whatnot, and hopefully you guys can present too. We'll have a call for speakers open in a couple of months, and then we'll get some good content. So
I just posted the dates in there.
Yep.
Tentative date September 27th through 30th.
And there are more conferences up at comps.tech. You can find a bunch of all sorts of different things. And then if you guys have any other conferences you think we should try and post here and let people know about, let us know. We're happy to add more content to the show notes, and we get a lot of good content. Charlie Earhart has always given us great content, and a couple of blog posts we actually missed, and so he's given us a couple of those. So if you got any recommendations for jobs, conferences, tweets, news, whatever, let us know.
I see it's got the dates, and this guy conferences, you can tell he's going to get his wife to sign off on it. So
yep.
I hope you do, Scott. I enjoyed seeing you last year and look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, Scott lives in my city, so sometimes we go to see if Summit, Vegas, will road trip and stuff. So it's always good to have somebody else to chat to on the plane or whatever. So very cool. Okay, next up, blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. And the first one, we already talked about a little bit, ColdBox version 6.6.0, and so that one is released. So if you want to find out more, ortusolutions.com's blog has it right there. Get all the information and Luis's funky cool export. So very cool to see that going. Definitely go check that out. The hierarchical dependency injection does sound cool, and I'm excited what we can do with it. So.
Absolutely. So next we've got a blog post by Ben Nadell using JSoup to clean up and normalize HTML in ColdFusion 2021. This is not something I really heard of until I saw this blog. I'll put the link here. Because you'd be like, JSoup, what's JSoup? Apparently, JSoup parses HTML into a document object model that provides traversal and mutation methods inspired by jQuery. What does that mean? I think it's a way for him to clean up a lot of his stored content in such a way that makes it cleaner to display.
It's very cool. Yep. So the JSoup DOM, I'm sharing my screen for those looking. But yeah, if you want to get text from something or HTML from something, you can use those functions. It really does sort of follow jQuery's method, but it just takes a block of text that's HTML and just makes it, friendly. And we've used it before in other tools we built, like Eric's integration tool, which basically you can say, hey, I want to look to see if this H2 has the text of this. Like, am I on the right page when you're looking at your tests and stuff like that? It's pretty slick what it can do. And this talks about what Ben did to make his site a little better. So he cleans up like local references and injects the CDN domains, old link styles, cleaning up slugs. So he walks through it as usual, very Ben quality detail. And it's really neat to see him using it. I love JSoup. I've used it for quite a few things. So very, very cool.
Nice. Okay, some comments. Scott again. He says JSoup is awesome. Thinks that's probably the best one there. So I will check that out.
And then John says jQuery needs some help after being dropped by tools like Bootstrap in version 5. I think jQuery is on the way out for sure. Vanilla JavaScript does a lot of things that jQuery does already. And then, to be honest, like if you're using Vue, like Scott says, Bootstrap with all the Vue.js stuff. You don't have to try and wrap jQuery. And most of the major jQuery tools that are out there have Vue components, and I'm sure they have React versions of them now too. So
it was awesome for its time. But
yep, it's like everything, once the browsers catch up on a lot of stuff and make it easier, life is just easier. I mean, like Cold Fusion, it got its props from doing a lot of things, hard things easy, but eventually there's other tools, better tools that, are advancing and developing faster, and so why not just use them? And jQuery is the same way. Now, next up we have another one from Ben Adele, and this one's actually pretty interesting because I dealt with something along the same lines just recently for a customer. So, he's talking about returning permissions with his API response payloads in Cold Fusion. So, whenever you're doing a front end and the back end, usually the old days you had Cold Fusion, so you had all this Cold Fusion logic to make sure you hide the right button and let the person who has permission to do this. But usually when you're dealing with a single page app, you've got to pass all that sort of permission logic down to the client side so you can choose what to show and hide and whatnot, and then obviously check it on the server side to make sure that they have the actual permission on that side as well. And so Ben was saying, like this works okay, but with single page apps that may stay open for days at a time, what happens if their roles changed after the page loaded? What happens if the code needs to be reloaded because they haven't refreshed the browser in days, and now all of a sudden you've made this feature work differently for this permission or that permission? And so basically he talks about some of those problems and then how he sort of deals with it. And so for those watching, I'm sharing my screen, but basically he starts to put like a permission struct in every response. So, he has a different type of struct than what I'm used to, but basically he has a struct, never an array, so everything's always a key inside the struct that he returns. We do that with the ColdBox API using like data and errors and messages, etc. But he has one of them as a block of permissions, and so he actually passes back with a list of members and a list of invitations the permissions for that view. So it's kind of interesting. I've never really thought about sort of doing it this way, so it's just interesting to see how he's done it. And then members, members here is actually another function, get members. So get members gives you a list of members, and guess what? Inside that members, there's also permissions as well. So so I just read Scott's message, just made a refresh tag with a 5-minute timeout, so make sure the page refreshes every 5 minutes.
Yep.
Good idea, Scott.
This page mouse.
Yeah. So this works interesting, like basically putting the permission for each object. That way when you loop over the members, you know which permissions they could do for that person right in the back, right in there. So, there's lots of different ways to approach this, and it's really cool to see a different approach. So I'm not sure if I'll take that one on or not, but the problems he identified is definitely problems that I considered too when I was looking at my option. And the long-lived page is kind of crazy when you think about it. If your code lives for that long and everything could be out of date, it does look pretty cool. John says it's a verbose approach. It definitely is, but it's the most accurate, right? Very timely, but then you've got a lot of permissions that might be passed there. And my Vue apps, the view itself, when it loads, it would actually give a bunch of permissions that it needed. And I guess I could just refresh those permissions periodically. So I tell it, hey, these are the permissions that this view needs. And then maybe I could update them, on a timer, basically poll, whatever. I know Ben says using WebSockets or whatever, but interesting for sure. And then that's very detailed to get each member has permissions differently than other members in a list. Anyway, very, very cool. I liked it. It's making me think for sure, so I appreciate it, Ben.
Well, Ben, making us think. My gosh. Well, here's another blog post out there, normalizing non-breaking spaces and other special characters within his Cold Fusion forum posts. So basically, he was going through, cleaning up some of his formatting. He saw a lot of funky characters that he didn't like. So essentially, he created a text normalization component to clean up bullets, dashes, double quotes, line endings, pseudo quotes, and spaces. It's just a nice something reusable you can grab, see how he's doing, and probably just use it almost as is.
Yeah, I want to steal it and put it on ForgeBox because it sounds really cool.
Oh yeah, good idea. Is it? Yeah. Sorry, I'm pasting the link so you guys can go check that out.
Yep. I also I was just sharing my screen for those watching, but we actually have some tweets about it too. And of course, James Moberg, he seems like he's built a tool for everything. I don't know what he does exactly, but he builds lots of tools for clients, and a lot of times it's cleanup and accessibility. And so if we look here at this tweet, you'll see the responses here. He said he'll have to add this to his white space CFC that he has, and he's saying you'd be surprised at how many variations of the non-character 32 there are. And basically he's talking about this, and he's got a gist up here with some more information. So we're going to share both those links with you guys because they're both really useful. But it'd be nice to pool our knowledge on this type of stuff. I've talked about it too with user agents. Wouldn't it be nice if we had a CFC, a user agent CFC somewhere that everybody could add all their crazy things? And we should start with James Moberg's list because he's got a huge one. But we could basically, just have one CFC, like a command box installed module basically that says, hey, these are all the bad user agents, don't let them come through, and we just update it with a pull request, and the ForgeBox package updates, and now your site is more protected. I think those types of things would be really great if we could pull together and update them. So
that's a good idea. It's tough though, those things change a lot.
Yeah,
but
that's why you want, because think about it, if you have your own CFC and you got to go update it all the time, are you going to do it? No. If it's a command box module that installs every time you do a box install, you're going to get the latest one every single time, as long as we get those pull requests in. So, anyways, I thought that was interesting.
And another reason to use CommandBox.
Yep. No, CommandBox, just package management in general. Same thing with, remember how many times did you copy down a version of jQuery and then, later on you need a new version, you got to go download it again. Well, which version am I running? I don't know. Where do I get it? How do I... It's such a nightmare. So package management is great, and that's one of the reasons we built CommandBox, to make that even better. So
agreed.
Anyway, so I definitely like that post there. Next up, we have another one from Ben. He's got a good collection today. And this one here is actually talking about double check lock around run once code in ColdFusion. So this one here is basically his little strategy for running some code, and he mentions that ColdFusion has on application start, which is great. It fully synchronizes your application setup, make sure that no code runs, in parallel or whatever. But sometimes you need to wait till after everything's done loading and later on run something. So this is just his little double check lock pattern that he uses, and so he talks about basically how it works and why it works, and it's a pretty neat way to make sure you don't have any issues. And a lot of it's here is is the value cached? If it is, use it. If it's not, then lock it, and now check is it cached, because in the meantime between you checking it and locking it, someone else may have tried to change it, and if somebody else is changing it, then you're making the same request twice. And so this just saves you from making extra requests, and it makes sense. I like it. Again, just little things, really helpful. And I like all those types of design patterns and everything. I read about them. I actually brought my book from college out and put it on my bookshelf so I can reread it sometimes. But yeah, I feel like there's so many design patterns I don't know or don't use, but it's kind of cool when you see other people using them, and like I said, ColdBox is full of them. That's one thing I like Luis and Brad and all of them. They use design patterns all the time, and they don't even realize they're being used. So when I actually identify one, I'm like, oh, that's that pen. That's cool. That's kind of neat. Okay. Yep. What else we got?
Hey, and you can correct me on this. Speaking of design patterns, doesn't CFCasts have some really good content on design patterns as well? Or am I thinking of something else?
I know we've got the object-oriented design, and there's some stuff in there where it talks about factories and stuff, as well as different object-oriented design patterns. So I think there's definitely some stuff in there. Yeah, But I don't think we actually have a specific design patterns piece, but that OOP one that Nolan did was, definitely had some stuff in there.
Yeah, oh, that's what I'm thinking of. The OP one from Nolan.
Yep.
Nice. Okay, we have some tweets coming up. First one is from Zack Spitzer. They're adding links to the related tests for tags and functions in the Lucy docs. Since Lucy has lots of detailed tests, they wanted to add links to the related tests for the tags and functions. I'm going to go ahead and paste the example from the docs, the Git pull or the GitHub link, the tweets.
Yeah. And for those who are watching, I pulled up the tweet, and you'll see that right here on the bottom of the documentation, see Lucy test cases. And then if you click this, it'll take you to the appropriate GitHub test, and you can see which tests they're using. So you can see in here some of the different tests. It's kind of neat.
And it makes a lot of sense too. How is it working? How can I test this? Well, there it is.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times your tests are better documentation than actually the documentation, because the test should be updated, otherwise your code won't pass, right? So hopefully if you update your tests on a regular schedule, then, a lot of times if I want to know how something works, I'll go look at the tests, because if they're written well, they can be really helpful to get a true understanding of how it works. And it's the most up-to-date, because you don't always keep your docs up-to-date as they should be. So...
Or you may not realize, hey, this can work this way as well. Look at this test. I could use that.
Yeah, for sure. I had a good run doing some tests this last week. It feels good to be writing detailed tests, and it actually helped me. I found something I wouldn't have found if I wasn't writing the test for it. So.
Do you write the test first?
I try to, depending on what I'm doing. If it's something where I've got detailed specs, then I like to write the test first. If it's something where I'm trying to figure out how I'm doing it, then I'll do it the other way. So it just depends. Like if I'm trying to figure out how it's even possible, I don't have a clear spec sheet yet, So it's one of those mix and match. And, like everybody, I should be testing more. No matter who you are, you should be testing more. So here's a bit of a flashback. Anybody remember the Cold Fusion Developers Journal? Sean Holmes tweeted this one, that he was actually interviewed in this issue. But see, this is aging me. I've been developing in Cold Fusion forever, but I wasn't really up in all the crowds and everything, so I wasn't around in this time. So I probably could have found it, but I was in New Zealand earlier when I started, and I was on some of the forums, but I didn't get the CF Cold Fusion Fast Track journals. So, flashback. Anybody in the chat remember them? Did they get them? Yes, Eric, that is paper. It looks like a magazine they would send out. Crazy, isn't it?
I bet I still have a bunch of them in a box somewhere in my basement. Because how cool is it to get that, publication with all this really cool content? And I even have the digital ones somewhere, I think. I think I bought them at one point.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I'm old, Gavin.
Hey, I'm old too. I have the fast track from Adobe Fusion 4. That's how I started all this stuff. But Bill said you can read it online, so interesting.
Oh, you can?
Well, maybe you could have read it online.
Oh, yeah, they had a web version. And I used to I don't know if I still do, but I still had my CF WAC 8 autographed by Ray Camden.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I have no idea if I still have it, but...
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. So what we got up next?
You mentioned James Moberg a little bit earlier. He has a blog post about the Cold Fusion CGI scope is not read-only. He posted that he was always under the impression that the Cold Fusion CGI scope was read-only, but apparently it's not, unless you use Lucy. So I'm going to go ahead and paste a link to that. I know for me, I find it's generally a good practice to not necessarily trust the CGI scope completely, or really any data that you don't directly control. Things can be spoofed. I never really rely on IP addresses. I never rely on, because somebody can manipulate all sorts of stuff. Yeah. So it's good. It's helpful, but yeah, don't trust that.
So apparently Zack said something about there's a ticket for the Lucy. So I'm not sure if that means they're going to make it not read-only anymore. But the reason it came up is because the Adobe support community people were having issues moving to Adobe CF 2021. Because I guess if you dump some variables out of the CGI scope, then the next time you try to access them, it was empty. So something in that process cleared out the CGI scope, and that's what they were having issues with. And so, yeah, so that's interesting. But But yeah, so anyways, there's more on Twitter about it too. But interesting. I didn't even know. Yeah, I didn't even think about making it, using it as an editable source of anything. So
I played with that in the past, like trying to fake something, but I never felt good about it.
yeah, like John said, if you dump it literally dump them, no more. Anyway,
Wow.
next up we have a tweet from Brad Wood. Nothing too special, but basically he's excited for the Lucy 5.3.9 release because it contains the largest number of pull requests from Brad in a single release. He's got 13 pull requests. Mainly it's all query of query stuff, but 13 pull requests in this version, so he's excited. So
Yeah. Isn't he waiting for that release for some command box goodness too?
probably there's always something. I mean, because we've over the time tried to get CommandBox running on Adobe ColdFusion, but CommandBox runs on a Lucy image. So a lot of times, if there's something super cool in Lucy's newest release that's coming out, then Brad does get excited, but he has to wait. He has to wait for it to come out before it, and be stable and tested. So, yeah. But
Sweet. Okay, we have another tweet from Zack Spitzer. He apparently owes Luis a drink for making TestBox faster. So he owes Luis a beer for agreeing to make the mockbox dependency lazy load in TestBox, I believe, 5.4 seconds faster.
Yep.
Which in computer time is, it's 5.4 seconds faster, but it's faster.
A lot faster. 5.4 seconds is a lot when you're trying to run tests on a regular basis and everything.
Absolutely.
Cool. Now, I've got a little blog post that Charlie alerted me to. I didn't see it on my normal news gathering process, but Cloudflare authenticated origin pools, which I know Cloudflare, this other stuff sounded like gibberish to me, but basically they're saying if you're using Cloudflare in front of your web server, it's a good idea to set up the authenticated origin pools. When this is enabled and configured properly, only Cloudflare will be able to connect to your origin web server directly. So basically by doing that, you can just be a little more secure, and it gives you some setup examples in here. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but basically it just means that only the basic Cloudflare can connect and block everybody else, and it'll give you a bad request. So interesting.
My rule of thumb is if Pete is talking about it and saying we should do it, it's probably a good thing to listen to Pete. I know that's not what you were saying, but just in general.
No, it is. I mean, I just like sometimes when Cloudflare or DNS is giving me issues, I like to be able to hit the server directly to test stuff. But John said he just did that for his dev system, so that way only the right people can get to it, through Cloudflare, and not anybody wandering. So it's kind of cool. Reduces the attack vector, announcing your location and stuff like that. So
I actually need to play with Cloudflare more. Cloudflare. I'm doing it I need to play with that service more, Gavin.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool things I hear.
Yeah, I just use it for the DNS because it's free and it's powerful and it's fast and it's privacy concerned, So that's the main reason I use it, because I got sick of trying to figure out which register the domain was at. Does the client have it or not? And it's nice and it's a good set of tools for DNS. So, and then you can always add all the rest on if you need it.
Yeah, I did see that the email forwarding is in beta, but I just got an invite for that.
Ooh.
I haven't tried it yet, but
I should do that.
Yeah. Okay, so one more blog from our friends at Fusion Reactor. Fusion Reactor versus App Dynamics. You can compare App Dynamics with Fusion Reactor based on customer opinion. If you're considering implementing an application performance monitor, APM, because we all like TLAs, and looking at comparing Fusion Reactor with App Dynamics, they'll look at some of the G2.com reviews. It's a great place to start. Reviews on G2.com are written by genuine users and are verified as actual customers before the review is accepted. I can affirm to that because I actually have some G2 reviews out there, and I've gotten some Amazon gift cards from them. This data is has been provided by G2.com, and is taken from feedback from Fusion Reactor and App Dynamics customers about the APMs they review. Here's the link, and I can also got a buddy that works at G2.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, they're out of Chicagoland.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's another one that Charlie brought my attention to. I guess I'm not on all the RSS readers. I know they're from ancient years, but apparently people still use them, and not everything gets posted on Twitter and Facebook and other places that I look. So I'll have to get an RSS reader up and add some people to my list.
I can recommend PD. I use that all the time.
Okay, maybe I'll have to reinstall that. New computer, all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let's talk about finding a job. So getcfmljobs.com is a great place to find all your CFML job needs. And we have quite a few new ones this week, another 4, I believe.
Okay, so first one is a full-time position, Cold Fusion developer at Reston, Virginia. That was posted on February 8th. I'm going to paste all these links when I'm done talking. We have another one. It's a full-time Java developer with Cold Fusion experience. It's a remote position. Another one is a full-time lead Java engineer, Lucy, Cold Fusion, chef, and vendor in the UK. And we have a full-time senior Cold Fusion developer, Latin America, Cologne, Pennsylvania, in the US. So lots and lots of links. I'm going to go and get those out there. It's very encouraging to see a lot of companies are actively using Cold Fusion, looking for good developers.
Yep.
If you are a developer that is going for some of these and wants to help level up, something you can do is go to CFCasts and find some cool modernization.
You mean get CFML jobs, not CFCasts, but CFCasts is good. But yeah.
Yep. So you want listening to this podcast, go to CFCasts, go into CFDocs, go into all sorts of places.
Yep, and then we also have some other job links too. So Ortus Solutions is looking for web developers in Latin America and also in the US. Ventro.com is looking for some Cold Fusion developers. And then the makers behind Lucy, Rasia, are looking for a US Timezone developer. And there's a link to a Slack CFML group archive message where if you go click on Gert there and send them a DM or direct message, let them know if you're interested. They're looking for workers too, so lots of good companies are looking for workers, and it's not because people are getting laid off either. It's because we're actually growing and getting busier. I know Ortus, we keep growing our team, and we're excited to keep growing it bigger and bigger, and to help those out there that need help modernizing or adding to their team for short-term or long-term projects. So it's very cool. Okay. Next up, we have our ForgeBox module of the week. And actually, it's 2 modules, but I'm going to talk about several modules because we're going to talk about CF Wheels. So there's a new category up on ForgeBox. And I'm going to share my screen. Sorry for everyone I keep telling that, but sometimes people are like, what are they talking about if I don't say that when they're listening to the podcast? So we made a new CF Wheels templates category. So they've uploaded several new templates lately. So there's a Hello World, there's a Hello Dynamic, and there's also a base template. So there's a few templates there. But there's also, if we just go and look at newest on ForgeBox, you'll see that they have some MVC options too. I'm still in the category. Let me drop the category. My bad. So now when I come and go to newest, you'll see that, as I mentioned, there's a few templates, but they also have the CF Wheels core is in there now, and the CF Wheels base is in there. So CF Wheels is adding more and more to ForgeBox. Remember, you don't have to be a box product user to use ForgeBox. It's a package management suite, and you can use it for whatever. I mean, you can basically just get like NoSQL stuff. There's all sorts of little bits and pieces, Lucy extensions using it. So if you don't even use, ColdBox, CommandBox or anything, just having Lucy extensions in your Lucy server, you can use Lucy extensions from here. So there's a lot of cool different things in here, but CF Wheels is using it. Framework 1 has stuff in here too. So there's CF Wheels templates, there's plugins. So go check that out because they're adding lots and lots more there, and it's cool to see that it's a community tool. It's not just a ColdBox tool. So
you actually said something earlier, Gavin, about Ben's component to clean up some of the hidden characters and special characters. Maybe throw on that. So where would you do that in ForgeBox?
Well, it's an interesting one because there is a bunch of just random stuff that sort of gets put in the module section. So that's probably the best spot for it. But I mean, categories are just ways for people to sort of find what they're looking for. So it's not like you need to specifically put it in a certain category, but certain ones do have some conventions. So if you have like a framework or whatever, a lot of times it has instructions of where to put it. But if you're just downloading a module without those instructions, it'll figure out the best place to put it. But like modules is probably the best spot for that because it's considered a module. And then I think even there's some basics, just straight CFCs. Like people can add a CFC to ForgeBox. You don't have to have a whole big old package for it. But yeah, a lot of them would be in there. Like I say, they don't have to be ColdBox tools to go there either, but it's probably the best bet.
That might be a good example at some point. So, do a quick little blog post on here's how to do a simple component in ForgeBox and, get your stuff out there. People can use it.
Yep. I mean, because we got lots of stuff in there. I mean, projects is sort of a random. A lot of people put stuff where it's not necessarily fitting into any other category. But yeah, they're just ways to tag something. So it's not a big deal if you don't know exactly where to put it, and we can obviously move it too if we need to. But yeah, it's definitely a pretty cool little collection, and it's great to see it still growing. That's why I like to go look at the news section all the time, and I try and spotlight some of the new stuff because it's growing all the time, updates and everything.
Oh yeah, I've gotten the habit now. If I need to solve something, I'm like, let me check ForgeBox first. Maybe somebody solved that. Yeah. And sometimes they do, which is awesome.
For sure.
Okay, so moving on, we have our VSCode hint, tips, and trick of the week. So this week is Task Explorer. Paste that link in there. So basically, whether you've got all these different tasks on PM, Grunt, SAS, Yarn, Docker, whatever, you can run it within Task Explorer within VS Code. It's a plugin that gives you a sidebar that allows you to run tasks. So basically, it's a nice way to run command line items organized to what you might need, all within VS Code without having to leave the VS Code workspace.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I'm really liking the way it looks. I'm zooming in on my screen for those watching. But yeah, so I mean, you basically have a task explorer, and then depending on the different tasks you have, it'll pop them out. I know there's some different extensions which give you some of the box tasks you can run and everything, but like here for NPM tasks, a lot of the projects we use have NPM built in to build our Elixir and Webpack and stuff, and it'd be kind of nice. Yeah, it'll be pretty interesting. So right now, it's not supporting everything that you're using, but it's one of those things we can probably improve. So
what I like is whenever they, command lines, they are what they are. A lot of people don't know what they are intimidated by them. Well, this gives you a nice GUI to be able to say, hey, I need to do this, click, it's done. Yep. Just making it easier and streamlining your workflow if you can't remember every little command you want to do.
I have trouble sometimes too, and like you have to open up multiple versions of your terminal inside of VS Code, and then you got to make sure you jump back to the right one. And then you're like, wait, is it npm run dev or run dev dash this, or is it CF format or lint check or format check, or so yeah, having a nice little list of them would be definitely a big plus. So pretty cool. So again, just another little VS Code tool that just helps make your life a little easier. If that's something you spend a lot of time working in, that might be the one for you. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of our show where we talk about our Patreon supporters. And as I mentioned earlier, these individuals are personally supporting our open source initiatives, including this podcast, but other things like CommandBox, ForgeBox, ColdBox, ContentBox, TestBox, and a bunch more boxes. And, like I said, for me, the big part of this just goes to ForgeBox and CommandBox, because all those packages that we have are all stored up on our, Ortus S3. Every time you download it, we're using S3 credits, and, Ortus is, funding that, and we know it makes our tools better, and we know it makes the community better. So, that's one of the things we're doing there. And you can support us on patreon.com/ortussolutions, and you get a few perks if you are a member. You want to tell us about them?
Absolutely. So I pasted the link to the Patreon, but we are now offering annual memberships. You pay for the year and save 10%, which is awesome for businesses. The bronze package is on up. You now get a ForgeBox Pro and CFCast subscription as a perk for the Patreon subscription. all Patreon supporters have a profile badge on the community website. I'm going to paste the link there. All Patreon supporters also have their own private forum access on that community website. And if you weren't aware, we've got a website, community.ortussolutions.com. Come check us out and say hello.
For sure. Okay, well, let me thank all these Patreons individually, so please accept my mispronunciations with no slight. So thank you, John Wilson, Eric Hoffman, Gary Knight, Mario Rodriguez, Giancarlo Gomez, David Bellinger, Jonathan Perrett, Jeffrey McGee from Sunstar Media. Oh, John Wilson's from Synaptrix, I forgot to mention that. Dean Maunder, Joseph Lamory, Don Bellamy, Jan Yannick, Laxma Tirohadi, Calvin Stanton, Dan Card, Jeremy Adams, Jordan Clark, Matthew Clemente, Daniel Garcia, Scott Steinbach with Agri Tracking Systems, Ben Nadell, Mingo Hagen, Brett DeLine, Kai Koenig, Charlie Earhart, Jonas Erickson, Jason Dager, Jeff McLean, Sean Oden, Matthew Darby, Ross Phillips, Edgardo Cabezas, Patrick Flynn, Stephanie Mungi, Kevin Wright, and Stephen Klotz. Thank you all for supporting us on Patreon, and you guys can go to autosolutions.com/about-us/sponsors, and you can actually see their pretty faces. So I'll share my screen. You see a Hall of Fame up here. David Bellinger, Dean Maunder, Don Bellamy, Eric Hoffman, Gary Knight, Giancarlo Gomez, John Wilson, Jonathan Perrett, and Dan Card. Those are our Hall of Fame members right now. So we also have supporting organizations and sponsoring individuals. We got lots of pages there. So thank you, everybody. It does mean a lot to us, and it means that we have more funds to be able to do awesome things for the community. And we really enjoy doing that, and trying to keep Cold Fusion moving. Okay. Absolutely. Any more chats? John Ferrara says less tasking. He wants to filter the CFML tasks. Well, I guess we'll check this out. I'm hoping that one has an easy way to add the command box ones in there so we can just get what we need.
That would be slick.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to try that one with the amount of stuff I've been doing lately. It's always using, NPM and command box ones are the main ones, but still.
I hate to say it, but I'm definitely going to wait and look eagerly to see what you come up with.
Sounds good. Okay, well, we managed to fit it inside of an hour this week. Good job. There's a lot of content, a lot of stuff, so very cool. For those watching, thank you guys all for watching and listening on the podcast later. Have a good one, and we'll see you all next week.
See you all next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernizeordie.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.